Rexx Arkana from FGFC 820, and we're at Kinetic Festival 5.0, and as you've actually had quite a few cameos tonight, and one in particular that drew a lot of attention was the Hyper performance, and also of course your FGFC performance, but Hyper seemed to draw kind of an interesting crowd with that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, every year Scooter is one of the bands that people always ask us to book for Kinetic Festival, so and that's just not something that we can financially do in the context of Kinetic, but you know, it came up again on the message board or on the Facebook page, and Daniel Meyer from How Job said, yeah, you know, let's do a Scooter cover band. So I contacted him and he said, yeah, you know, I'm serious, let's do something. So he and I got this crazy idea, and then we just basically went and, you know, recruited whoever wanted to get up on stage and sing Scooter songs with us. So nice. some of whom we actually recruited like the night of.
Yeah.
So
that was pretty awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the EP seemed to do pretty well, draw a lot of attention. How do you feel about the new album and everything? I know it's going to be released here soon, so June 1st?
Yeah, June 1st. I don't know, I have sort of mixed feelings about it. On one hand, the music some of the songs that are on the new album don't feel very new to us anymore. We've been playing them for so long. But we took a lot of risks on this album, and I think the world, both the world at large and my sort of personal piece of the world, is in a constant state of upheaval the last couple of months, it seems. And you know, we have people, you know, rioting on the streets in front of the club, and you know, it just the new album really sort of speaks to that feeling of helplessness and powerlessness that it's easy to succumb to, and just sort of reinforces that it's about personal responsibility and personal choice in a lot of ways, whether that's, you know, making your own little piece of the world better, or whether that's making the world, you know, a better place.
What difference you can make, period.
Well, we have a ballad on the new record, which is, you know, something very, very different for us, and the lyrics to this album are probably the most personal I've ever written, over the 3 albums and 2 EPs or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how people respond, not only to this, maybe sort of the different musical styles that we're taking on this record with some of the tracks, but also what people take away from sort of the lyrical content, you know. So,
well, could you tell us a little bit more about the song, the ballad?
But yeah, it's a song called Love Until Death, and it's, like I said, it's probably the most personal song I've ever written. We thought about playing it here, but I wasn't certain I was going to be able to actually, you know, pull it off. So we ended up playing Relapse, which is a new track, and which is also quite a personal song, but we felt was maybe a little bit more fitting for the live setting. But you know, we'll see. It's the unusual thing about it is that, you know, we always send out advance copies of the album to the press and whatnot to set up interviews and reviews and what have you. And interestingly, it seems that pretty much every interview we've done for the new album, or in anticipation of the new album, the reporter, the interviewer, has asked about that particular track. So, I mean, maybe there's some resonance there. I don't know. Maybe it's certainly a more universal sort of feeling, something I think people can kind of relate to. So maybe that's it. We'll see. It's always a little bit anxiety creating to put so much of yourself sort of out on public display. So, you know, I think if you're an artist and you have a message, just sort of have to be honest in delivering that message, and you see where people, or where it takes people when they listen to it.
Absolutely.
So,
well, you guys have always been very politically charged. It's almost perfect that you guys did a performance during the riots here in Montreal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we open our set with a sample of Pierre Trudeau talking about the declaration of more or less martial law, the suspension of the Canadian Bill of Rights during the October crisis in 1970. And like I mentioned on stage, it's just to hear him speak those words again, they almost sound as if he's talking about current day events. And I think I think that we tried to make the point to people that those people that were here that maybe weren't alive during the October crisis in 1970, that it's sort of happening all over again right here in Montreal where it began. So again, it comes back to the idea of you have to be an active participant in your own life, and I can't say that I know enough about or 100% support what the students are asking for in this manifestation, but I think that I certainly respect that they've I certainly respect that they're not remaining silent about it.
Good.
And that they're trying to change their world for what they think is the better. It's something they believe in, and they're willing to actually go out and become an active supporter of that.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I mean, as far as America goes, I mean, I don't want to make it too political, but as far as America goes, what concerns do you have as of late?
too many to list almost. I mean, I just think, again, that what's happened to our civil liberties in the wake of this war on terror, which in and of itself is sort of a ridiculous concept, but I think you're in a situation where it's sort of like the medicine is worse than the disease, and I think that we've lost a lot of our youth in this war, and I think that we've lost and we continue to lose our rights and our freedoms, our constitutional rights and freedoms, and I think that people should be very, very wary about what's happening to them.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of America is very blind to a lot of the
What's
things that are
difficult
happening.
to deal with conflict, right? I mean, most people would generally, most people just kind of want to get through their day and not have anything really seriously bad happen to them, and as long as it doesn't, and unless they're personally affected or someone they know is personally affected, it tends not to resonate with people, and I think that's sad, that's unfortunate, because the reality is that what's happening ultimately affects everyone, so you can get through life and not have worries and do your thing, but what kind of life is it, so.
Well, on a lighter note, I noticed that you guys brought out Dracos on the guitar for the first time. Is that going to be a bigger part of the show now?
Yeah, I think that logistics prevent us from doing it maybe as often as we would consider doing it, just because then you've got another road case and more cables and more gear that you have to take with you, and we do so many fly-in shows and so many festivals, it's very difficult to sort of to be able to do that, to be able to pull that stuff off. So maybe in the local shows, the shows we're driving to, we'll find a way to incorporate it. We play next week, and it was supposed to be our record release party in New York City with a reunited Aslan faction, but as it turns out, now our record won't actually be available at the record release party. But we may do it there because it's local.
Sure.
And I liked the element that it brought to some of the older songs from the first record, particularly. I thought, you know, Society sounds completely different with that guitar riff in it. So I think we'll continue to try to use it where we can, but I don't know that it's something that we'll be able to do at every show, unfortunately.
Yeah. So. Well, and I also noticed that you donned a new drummer, so to speak, Aga, on the steel drum.
Yeah, I don't know. She left, right?
Yeah, I know. We could interview her.
We're not allowed to talk about it. But,
I want to know your thoughts, at least.
Oh, no, I thought she did great. You know, and again, that's a big stage to be on, and when you have just 2 people in the band, and you know, one guy is chained to a keyboard, and the other guy's doing vocals. You know, there's not a lot of activity on stage, and you know, and I try to make up for that in my manner of performance, if you will, I guess, but try to keep people entertained. But we just thought that, you know, this is our 4th year of Kinetic, and you know, each year we try to do something bigger and better than the year before, and so this year we didn't have a whole lot of, you know, a lot of choice, but to really try to reconfigure the lineup a little bit.
Sure.
And I think it worked out well, and I think she did a great job. She killed the hell out of those drumsticks.
Yes, they were bent.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, they're definitely not usable.
Are those your drums, or were they? Because I see them over there.
Yeah, no, we actually we acquired them for this show, and now since we're not going to try to drive across the border with 2 World drums, you know, strapped to the roof of the car, I think they've become the property of the club.
So whoever wants to bang on those.
Bands who need oil drums,
yeah,
will be well looked after, yeah.
Perhaps chant or something. I don't know. Well, so you had mentioned kind of a little bit about the album coming out a little later than you expected. So the official date is June 1st?
June 1st, yeah.
June 1st, okay.
Yeah.
And what are we to expect on that album? Like, what's some other things?
More of the same. You know, it's our message hasn't really substantially changed. It's just gotten maybe more angry.
Yeah.
More jaded, perhaps. You know, but there's still going to be, I think, in all of our songs, a deep level of emotional content, and I don't think this record's any different than that.
Yeah, you definitely had mentioned that there's quite a bit of personal strife,
yeah.
Period, in this album. So. And hopefully that'll be conveyed.
Yeah, I think it comes through. You know, for better or worse, I think it comes through. I mean, certainly there are no sort of filler tracks to hide behind. You know, it's kind of, this is me. This is where I'm at right now, and the thing that I like most about the project is the way sort of the symbiotic sort of relationship that Dracos and I have, whereas, you know, I'll get, you know, maybe sort of a feeling or a lyric or something, and I'll come back to him, and he sort of interprets that, reads it and interprets it in its own way, and then sort of comes up with his version of it, and then together we sort of bring together both of our influences and both of our mental states and come up with something that I think, you know, isn't 100% definitive of either one of us, but is actually like a true sort of collaborative effort where we kind of, you know, come together and present that as a whole.
Yeah, it's, you know, it seems to be very difficult to be able to find somebody that you can tough through all these festivals, all these different shows, and still come, you know, not have some sort of ego like a lot of bands tend to do. But
this scene is too small for ego. That's the thing that always irritates me, though. I mean, it's just like I mean, you have bands that you can say or qualify as being, you know, highly successful in our scene. But the gap between those bands that are highly successful and the bands that are just sort of middle tier acts, if you will, is not anywhere near as big, I think, as it is in almost any other style of music. You know, because in real commercially successful brands of music, the ones that are that achieve that success and excess, as the case may be, are substantially set apart from the rest of the pack. And in this scene, it's not. It's like you're considered a top tier band because you sold 5,000 more copies than the second tier band. You know, it's just it's such a pitiful, you know, way of trying to emasculate oneself. You know,
sure.
Well, we're a successful goth industrial band, which means we're pretty much an unsuccessful band on the grand scheme.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, there's been a lot of bands playing here. Is there any highlights that you feel that are a big part?
I really liked E-Craft the other night, and I had seen them before, but I thought they put on a great show. The Gothsicles are always fun.
Which you donned the stage with that for F the Sun, your second time.
And I mean, they're just great fun to watch, and they don't take themselves too seriously, which is the antithesis of what we were talking about before.
And it's amazing to see them rise up just because of that, even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the scene that tends to take itself a little too seriously.
Exactly. You know, and Born Baton was good, and I'm really looking forward to Spock.
Nice.
I've known them for a very, very long time, so
nice.
I'm interested in seeing them, see how they pull it off.
Now, are you a Star Trek fan?
I'm not really a Star Trek fan, but I do like catchy synth pops. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, is there anything that you'd like to share with the rest of the people right now?
No, I mean, just, you know, we're happy that Kinetics brought us back, you know, 4 years in a row, and I had a guy say to me tonight, he said, "Is it really true that you're not coming back next year?" And I said, "Well, this year's not even over yet. We haven't really had those discussions." And he said, "Well, you have to play Kinetic. You're like part of the walls."
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, well, we love this festival very much, and it's become sort of like a you know, sort of like a home field for us. So, you know, of course we'll come back and we'll play again, whether it's next year or sometime after that. But, you know, that wouldn't happen if it wouldn't be for, you know, the organizers here and even more importantly, the fans and the people that come out, you know, and everything that they do to support the event. You know, so it's critical. I mean, we need, in a scene where there are so many chiefs, it's, you know, we need an influx of Indians. We really do.
Well, thank you very much for the great interview. So definitely looking forward to the album coming out June 1st, everybody. Thank you, Rexx.
Thank you.